Hello, everybody. My name is Ivan Ethos, and welcome to In a Nutshell. I was considering this morning that maybe I should do something a little bit different. Maybe I should go back to doing intermediates. Maybe I should do a rant and rave, perhaps. And then I realized I haven't done, although I have done in some way, an In a Nutshell about the three starter frames and their true power. I did a very short blurb about them in my tutorials in Warframe Basics. But I figured for the sake of consistency, we'd go ahead and do them here, each individually, for my YouTube channel. So what we have here is Mag Prime, and as you can see, I do have 3 format in her. So what you're going to be with these 3 right here, these 2 dash and this 1 V polarity, this is not her normal set. These are not part of her normal polarities. These 3 are. Of course, this is her Prime. As you can see, her Prime is 65 armor, 263 energy, which is a weird number of energy, 300 health, and 450 shield. Now, her normal variant, has 225 health, 450 shield, again 65 armor, and then 188 energy and 1.0 sprint speed at max rank. So there's a few changes, a little bit more energy with this, and a little bit more shield, I believe, or a little bit more health and shield. No, there's a little bit more health in her prime variant, as well as more polarity slots. So remember that, and this of course also has been reactored, because I like my mag. Not enough to fully polarize her, but I like my mag. So, the mag is a very interesting frame. I'm only going to be using the kit gun that I recently built for this. I think you'll understand in a little bit. For those people who have watched my YouTube video tutorial about how to play mag and the other starters, this won't be new to you. But since, once again, I'm just assuming the people who are watching this have not watched said video. So we're going to go ahead and show you her abilities. Now, Mag is female, just to keep that in mind. So Mag's passive makes her bullet jumping pulls in nearby enemies for easy collection. So bullet jumping is when you slide and you jump like that. When you slide and jump like that. That's bullet jumping. Basically, it acts like a very minor version of vacuum. Very minor. The specifics of it, if I remember correctly, if it's up in here, probably not. Nope. Oh, apparently it is almost identical to vacuum in its size. So it's about an 11 meter vacuum effect when you do your bullet jumps. Okay, that's kind of what I figured. Alright, so her first ability is Pull. Now, Pull lets you do a lot of things, and one of the biggest things is, even though it doesn't do a lot of damage, it's a great form of control. And the reason for that, of course, is because it ragdolls your enemy, even for a minute. If you have enough energy or enough efficiency and you can, just keep on pumping out those poles, first of all, you might be able to kill them. Usually it takes a full pool of energy in order to kill level 30s with just pole, and a little bit of laser beams. So keep that in mind. Now, her next ability is really defensive, as I'm sure you've seen. It kind of makes up a little bit of a gravitational well. And on top of that, if anyone who remembers me playing around with the oh god, it just blew up. Oh, he's posed in an elegant death. Very elegant. For anyone who remembers me playing around with the buzz lock, it's kind of what it does. Anything that hits that bubble gets dragged, any projectile or beam weapon gets pulled straight into the center of it. And as you can see, just by watching this, it does a fairly good amount of damage. No, see, and watch what happens here. So I do my bullet jump. See, there it is. So now, why does it do a lot of damage? That's because her pole has a range of 25 meters as static, 300 regular damage, 300 magnetized damage, and a 25% increased chance for enemies killed by pole to drop an energy orb. Just remember that. That drop chance is a 25% chance when you kill with it for enemies to drop additional energy orbs. Kind of a neat little thing. On top of the magnetize, there are two effects that happen. So first you get this duration, 15 seconds as a bubble. And it reacts to bullets and shards created from the polarized to increase damage. Now the explosion radius of it when it elapses is 300 damage. Just to keep that in mind. And the radius of the explosion is 15 meters, the radius of the magnetize is about 4 meters. But the damage multiplier was most important. With high power strength, mags can deal 3, 4, 5 times additional damage with any weapon that they use against that magnetized field. It's really, really strong. The damage absorption, of course, is 25%, which I believe, and I will check myself to be double sure here, that the way that works. Yep, so 2 times multiplier there. Yep. Additionally, the field absorbs damage from all redirected projectiles and deals 10 to 25% of it as damage per half second to each enemy within it. So, it's not just... The reason why all those enemies were dying at the same time was because I was pumping in some damage, and the field was causing enemies to die inside of it. Now, the initial target dies while magnetized. The field is stabilized and explode at the end of its duration for a bunch of blast damage and a good radius. Each time an enemy gets hit by the damage ticks inside the bubble, 25% of the current damage absorbed gets added to the explosion damage. So basically, if I do 1,000 damage, if I do 1,000 damage to enemies within the orb will then convert 25% of it, so a quarter of that, into damage that deals per half second, so per tick, you could say. Well, actually a little bit less than that. So that would be, let's see here, 25% of 1,000 with 250 damage per half second, so that's 500 damage per second. And then on top of that, it gets multiplied by the number of times it actually deals damage. So, for example, because of how it functions, if a mag absorbs 1,000 damage, it hits enemies with 20 half-second ticks before the explosion, without having added any further damage into it, it will be 300 plus 20 times 1,000 times 0.25. So basically, it comes out to being, for that 1,000 damage, it comes into 5,300 blast damage when it elapses. So it's pretty strong. Plus, it gets affected by power strength. So again, it's pretty strong. In addition to firearms, by the way, magnetize can also redirect radial javelin blades, prism lasers, exalted blade waves, Artemis bows, arrow fan, and bouncing projectiles such as blades. So, as a point to remember, if you're running with other teammates, you can actually use magnetize to make things really fun if you have people like Excalibur in your team. Now, something to remember as well is that if the target dies before the magnetized bubble appears, so let's say you're about to cast it and someone kills your target, the energy for it is refunded, so you don't have to worry about losing energy when you're casting this ability, which is really, really handy. So then we're going to move on to polarize. Now, polarize emits an energy pulse that depletes enemies' shield and armor. It used to be just shield, creating shards of which become deadly when mixed with magnetize, and the shields of allies touched by the pulse are restored. So it's a radius of 8 meters, its duration is 5 seconds, its damage is 400, and its damage multiplier is 2.5 times. And I might go, well, that's dumb. Only an 8-meter radius? The 8-meter radius is how far it starts out. It is not its true. It's not its true size. Polarize, as you can see, expands outward given its duration. So even with a moderate or medium level range, it still does a pretty fair job in hitting enemies a distance out if your duration is high enough. For example, as you can see, they now have no armor. And if you notice, it actually just flat up killed them. My level 30 Warframe versus their level 30 faces just melted them away. So in order to do this accurately, we will have to do a level 60 expression. Alright. So we'll polarize. There it is. So you can see that it really chunked away their health. Now as you can see these little glowy shards on the ground, if I magnetize on someone, you just pulled them all in. That's slightly out of range. Boom. Look at that. So a full explosion. So again, this had level 60 enemies. That Mag Prime, granted, with no mods whatsoever, is killing with relative ease. Just to keep that in mind for future generations who are watching this video. Mag is a fairly strong frame. Now her last ability, and we'll showcase it here, is Crush. She magnetizes the bones of enemies, causing them to collapse upon themselves. It does a 1500 damage, it's an 18-meter range, and its magnetized damage is 1500 additional damage. But what that means is, if some enemy has been magnetized beforehand and there's enemies inside the magnetized bubble, it crushes all of them even harder. So I'll showcase this. So you see how it chunked their health a decent amount, right? Well, I'm going to magnetize. It'll pull them all in, and again, watch that health. As you can see, to that one target, a sufficiently increased amount of damage. And boom. So something to keep in mind when you're playing with Mag is that her magnetize is kind of like her bread and butter skill. Not necessarily her only skill, don't get me wrong there. But definitely her bread and butter skill. God, I love the animation of reloading that thing. Yeah, we're just kind of slowly killing this guy here. So, now the big question comes to, how do you mod her? Obviously, you've seen some really interesting things, and just to make sure that I don't forget anything, I will point out that you can have 3 magnetized bubble at the same time, just to remember that. And your polarize is kind of interesting because the enemy has armor, the armor gets reduced by a value. And the enemy additionally suffers true damage. This is damage that ignores all armor here, equal to the armor removed. And then additionally, allies' shields are restored by 250 to 400 if they're present in the initial radius or come in contact with the pulse. So it's another way of restoring shields to your allies, which is great. The wave speed is not augmented by mods, but it does some pretty cool stuff. Again, it starts after the initial radius and then slowly increases the total radius, just to keep that in mind with magnetize. Or not magnetize, but polarize. The next thing that's very important to do is Crush. So I don't know if there's any additional effects with Crush. I don't think there is. So it deals magnetic damage, just as a heads up. So it deals better damage to the corpus. And of course, the status effect reduces that target's current and maximum shields by 75%. There is an augment for this that reduces armor permanently by, I believe, like 50%. And it's kind of interesting that way. But that's pretty much all you got. Now, there is one little thing. If an enemy walks in to the effect while it's going on, they will be lifted in the air. And on top of that, it's a little bit of an unknown thing, but there's actually an effect where you actually restore shields to allies who are within the radius of the crush. So just remember that. It also goes through walls, so it's another important thing to remember. So beyond that, how do you build Mag? Well, it kind of comes down to personal choice. And if you're just plain regular mag, the thing you should be focusing on is putting yourself, more likely than not, you want to get Energy Siphon, drop that on your character, just like that. And of course, you want to do your standard Intensify, Continuity. Again, if you have it, you're probably going to want to do Redirection. This is one of the few times I actually recommend that you get the non-health variant. Just go for straight shields. Because she does not need health. She needs more shields. Because she's better with her shields. So the shields give her more bang for her buck than health does. Of course, if you're really worried about her survivability, Vitality is fine. Otherwise, for the Naramon, you should be looking at doing things like Flow, looking at Natural Talent even, Stretch, if you have it, and Streamline. These are important things to have. And if you have Augur Message or Augur Reach, go with Augur Reach rather than Augur Message. That additional range is going to be super helpful to you. So we now have a little bit of an upscale across the board, and we'll show you the differences here. So from 2.6 to from 2.0 to 2.6 times multiplier, the duration has gone up substantially in all of these. And as you can see, even the drop chance from pull has gone up. I believe this cap is somewhere around 50%. If you watch the Polarize go out now, it travels a huge distance before falling off. And that all comes down to range, initial range, and duration. So something to keep in mind with that. So if I go over here, I can magnetize from out there. Look at that. And there's my jabbing spears. So something to remember about these little shards that you get from Polarize is they actually orbit inside and constantly deal damage up until the time that they elapse. Kind of a fun little trick that way. But as you can see, absolutely devastating. And pull requires such a little amount of energy. I mean, 18, that's super small. And has a good range. Something also to keep in mind when it comes to Mag, she does have augments. Now, I only have one augment for her right now, and that's Greedy Pull. And that adds a 100% chance to pull pickups towards Mag, which is fantastic. Now, to kind of show something kind of funny, so let's see here. Where's my Opticore? I thought I had it somewhere. There it is. So I'll bring out the Opticore, and I'm going to showcase kind of something kind of funny. As I mentioned before, you get all kinds of crazy things that happen because of Magnetize, right? Look at that. I just have to hit the bubble. I just have to hit the bubble, and they die. It's not a matter of what weapon you have, if it's a charge weapon, if it's a shotgun, whatever, or a bow even. If you want to see that, it literally gets dragged to the center of the field. It is a fantastic effect. It really, really is. So we're going to quickly go over her augments in the orbiter, as well as where do you pick up Mag? Because some people may not have picked her as their starting frame, and if they didn't pick her, that's perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. But you pick him up on Phobos. So where is Phobos? Phobos is right here. Right after you complete Mars, you have access to Phobos. And at Iliad, the Sergeant Assassination is what gives you the ability to get Mag's blueprint. Well, Mag's part blueprints. It's like any other basic frame. And like any other basic frame, when you picked up all of her neuropics, chassis, and systems, you just come over here, and you can pick her up wherever she happens to pick. Where is she? Oh, there it is. And you bear up for 25,000 credits. That's something to keep in mind. See, like there. Now, I actually need to purchase this because there's a lot of warframes of the basic warframes that I never fully mastered because I got their primes too fast. So we're going to edit that. Now, I believe it is. Please tell me it's Arbiters of Hexus. Please tell me it's Arbiters of Hexus, and I'm not going crazy.
Show you the path.
No, that's right. I can't get the special stuff for her. It's, I believe, only on the parent sequence. Although I could be very, very wrong. No, there it is. So, Fracturing Crush. Survivors have their armor decreased by 50% and become unable to move for 7 seconds. It's a great augment for mags who want to run that particular, crush build. Their efficiency decent. They make sure they don't have to worry about duration. They just focus on getting their efficiency high enough to not worry about it, and then have super high range and decent damage. They don't worry about duration because crush is all they do. Crush. And it works really well. Counter Pulse, which is enemy weapons are jammed and robotics are disabled for 4 seconds when hit by Polarize. I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe this is affected by ability duration. So this is one where you'd go with range and duration mods on Mag for a CC effect against the Corpus. Magnetized Discharge, so you can manually detonate Magnetize by casting on the target. So, sorry, recasting. Enemies have a 50% chance to become disarmed. So, and you blow it up. If they aren't dead, which is fairly unlikely, they're disarmed now. Or at least have a good chance of being disarmed. And then, of course, Greedy Pull, which adds 100% chance to pull pickups towards Mag. Now, I understand getting these mods can be a little tricky sometimes. I understand that. I get that. That's what really comes down to playing with your strengths and talking on your trade chat. Willing to buy Greedy Pull, willing to buy Crushing Ruin, or whatever else it is that you're looking to get. That's what's important to remember. So everybody, I hope you've enjoyed watching this episode of In a Nutshell. Again, this has been Mag. Leave a like if you liked the video. Subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And if you have a comment, please leave it in the comment section, and I will get to it as soon as possible. So until then, everybody, thank you, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. Bye, everybody.